I'm struck by the similarity of the Titanic disaster itself, where the captain was repeatedly warned about ice ahead of his ship, and yet he steamed at full speed into an ice field on a moonless night, and many people died as a result. And
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Titanic director James Cameron seems to blame Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate, for the disaster, and I can't say I blame him. I can't say I blame Cameron for feeling that way. Cameron independently said exactly what I said earlier, that the captain of the Titanic was warned several times, and yet he didn't change his behavior, and so was the CEO. Human beings need to respond to the environment. They need to pay attention to it, and if they can't, don't, or won't, well then expect to pay a price. And I don't think this case is over yet. I think someone is going to have to pay the piper for the situation that has come up here, because I don't think it is just an accident. An accident waiting to happen seems to talk about something that is more, let's use a legal term, willful. If you're enjoying my coverage and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. I'm hoping to do another couple of videos that I meant to do, and that was assuming that the search would have taken quite a lot longer. And so one question I had was, if you had to tether this craft, how would you do that? And then the other question is, if you were a survivor, right, if there was still someone alive in the craft, what would they expect? What could they expect? So if you're interested in that analysis, please subscribe. If you're enjoying this episode, please like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. I've got to say, my heart definitely goes out to the 19-year-old kid, the Pakistani guy, I think he's at university in Glasgow, who was apparently terrified of going on the trip, and although he wasn't up for it, he went anyway to please his dad, and now his life is gone. So what ultimately found the Titan's fragments, and how? Well, I didn't put too much stake in the ROVs. I was kind of just thinking of like a sausage-shaped camera and something that was just going to be, moving slowly in the dark. But you got a sense that French ROV was something special. Everyone was talking about it, that it was something really world-class. And guess what? It delivered. If the Titan had a 5-man crew, the Victor 6000 is a squad of 25 operating its various systems, and these guys go at it non-stop for 72 hours. The Victor 6000, it's obviously French-made, is basically a 2x3 meter cube that moves at a snail's pace, just 1 kilometer per hour. Compare that to the speed of the Titan, around about 3 knots. The Victor 6000 has all the bells and whistles, arms that can cut cables, a range of sensors that allow it to see and hear underwater. And so it was within about an hour or two of the Victor 6000 touching down that it identified debris. And I don't think this was through seeing the debris, in terms of the visual field. I think they actually sent out scans, and they were able to see the sharp outline of fragments that stood out compared to the litter, the old rusted litter from the Titanic. Also, I think the fragments of the Titan would have been a lot sort of clearer and brighter in some sort of scan, possibly infrared, who knows. So, interestingly, the debris was some distance away from the front of Titanic, which means the craft wasn't sort of floating around, sightseeing around the Titanic. It wasn't actually, it hadn't actually made it down and was over the Titanic when disaster struck. it means it must have been some distance above descending when disaster struck, right? And it is almost certain now that what failed in this craft was the carbon fiber cylinder, somewhere along that, or one of the hinges touching on that. That is what cracked, because that still hasn't been found. Just think about it. They found the nose cone, they found the fin on the other side, but that carbon fiber cylinder they haven't been able to find. The ROV now needs to record photos, footage, measurements of the scene, which, who knows, may ultimately be described as a crime scene. What else do we know about this submersible? So the Victor 6000 is also submersible, meaning it can't just swim in and out of a harbor. It needs to be dropped down. And in the case of the Victor 6000, it goes down on a tether. It is connected to the ship by an electromechanical cable, which is 8,000 meters long, right? So around about twice the length that the Titanic is deep. And so it can sort of, if it really wants to, it can hover over the ocean depth and then, move around. But it's obviously, I think, held in place by that tether. It also, this tether supplies, this cable supplies 20 kilowatts of electrical power. Optical fibers in the cable send the data and image flows to the surface, thus providing the pilots and scientific teams with virtually complete access to what is going on lower down. There's a control room that is on board the ship, in this case the Atalante, the French ship, and that enables the submersible to be piloted in real time. And so they say that there's, in theory, no limit to the duration of a dive. Pilots can sort of have a sort of 4-hour system where they on duty and they do their thing, and then they rotate it out with fresh, I don't want to say fresh legs, fresh eyes, fresh attention spans. Now, what I think you can see is, even if the Victor 6000 found the sub intact, right? Even if you had a really good situation where the Victor 6000 arrived on the scene, theoretically, let's say a couple of hours earlier, or even in days earlier, and let's just say hypothetically there were survivors inside. By the time it got there and was able to render aid, the oxygen probably would have run out. Can you see that? I mean, it's moving at 1 kilometer an hour. In future, expeditions should probably all be equipped with one of these, which are a steal at $165,000, which is kind of almost half the price of those tickets to, on an expedition on the Titan. If the Titan tragedy showed anything, it's that the Titan broke under pressure and that this robot delivered. Let me ask you a question. Do you think anything on board the robot is made of carbon fiber by any chance? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.
By the time we're done testing it, I believe it's pretty much invulnerable.
And that's pretty much what they said about the Titanic.
That's right.